guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new, welcome to my channel. My name's Emily. I post vlogs here every Monday and then other videos every Thursday. So today's video is going to be a continuation of the Mystery Moments series. Now I know I said I'd try and do one of these every month, but I didn't get last month's done, so it's now May and the last one I did was in March. Oh my gosh, that was ages ago. But yeah, the last one I did was in March. I didn't manage to do one in April because I was just so busy with work and I couldn't think of stuff to do. Anyway, end of excuses, I've got a May mystery moment for you. Also, excuse my hair, it's so greasy. This is the third day I haven't washed it because basically yesterday our shower wasn't working. It was going really like hot cold, and then today we had no water coming from it at all, so couldn't wash my hair. I've managed to wash my body in ice cold water, but you know, we're just gonna have to deal with the hair, so sorry about that. It was also in plaits all night, so it's really not, it's not hot, it's not a good look, it's not cute. We'll ignore it, we'll move on, no one look at my hair. So today's video is going to be about the disappearance of the Beaumont children. I do have all my notes written down, so if I'm looking down, that is what I'm looking at, so sorry about that, but some of the information is quite hard to remember, so let's just get into the case. So the Beaumont children were Jane, the eldest, Anna and Grant, the youngest, and they disappeared from Glenelg Beach in South Australia near Adelaide on the 26th of January 1966, which was known as Australia Day, I believe. I'm not quite sure, I'm from the UK, but apparently this was Australia Day. So at the time when the children disappeared, they were aged 9, 7 and 4. The morning of their disappearance, the children made the 5-minute, 3-kilometre bus journey from their house to Glenelg Beach, and this was a journey they had made the previous day, and Jane was trusted to look after the other two children because we need to remember that this was in the 60s, so things were very different. So at the age of 9 she was trusted to look after her younger brother and sister, but it was a different time, it's important to remember that. So the children caught the 8:45 a.m. bus from their house to Glenelg Beach, and they were expected home on either the 12 o'clock or the 2 o'clock bus. However, 3 o'clock came round and their parents still had no sign of them. They didn't know where they were, so the parents drove to Glenelg Beach to look for the children. By 5 p.m. they couldn't find them anywhere, so they went to Glenelg police station and reported the children missing. The police search soon began of the beach and the surrounding areas. So the case of the Beaumont children had big media coverage, and within 24 hours the entire nation was aware of the case. And this is obviously very, very beneficial for a case like this because they say if it's going to be solved, it's going to be soon after it happened. So that day, between the children, they were known to be carrying 17 items. So these included towels and clothes and just general things that one would take for a day at the beach. But yes, as I said, none of these were ever found. So now we're going to move on to talk about potential sightings of the Beaumont children on the day of their disappearance. So several witnesses said they saw them with, I'm going to be reading this bit so I get it right. So they said they saw them with a tall, blonde, thin-faced, tanned man with a thin to athletic build in his mid-30s wearing swimming trunks. The children were said to be playing with him and they were excited and happy and relaxed when people saw them. So their parents thought this was very out of character when they heard of this because Jane, the eldest in particular, was quite shy, and it was out of character for her to be talking to someone that she didn't know, and for the others as well. But I believe it was a few days before Anna, the middle-aged child, had gone to her mother and said, oh, Jane's got a boyfriend at the beach, and her mother just shrugged it off, you know, because kids talk about silly things. And now after the disappearance it seems a bit more sinister, and maybe this could have been related to their disappearance. A shopkeeper said that Jane came in to the shop and bought pasties and a meat pie using a £1 note, and this was bizarre for a couple of reasons. The first one being that Jane had never bought a meat pie before, and their mother had only given them 6 shillings, which was enough for the bus, so they wouldn't have had a £1 note. So the police suspect that this had been given to them. There was also a statement given by a postman. He said he saw them walking away from the beach at around 3 o'clock and they looked relaxed and happy when they were laughing, which seemed odd because they were quite sensible children and they would have been upset by being late for their curfew. But then the postman later said that this may have been sometime in the morning, so it's unknown as to when this occurred. So there's not really much to say about that one, but it is interesting to note. So months later, a woman actually came forward and said she saw 3 children who fit the descriptions with a middle-aged man, and they were entering a house on her road which she knew to be empty, but the next day they were apparently gone, and it's unknown why she didn't report this until months later, but she didn't anyway, so I'm not sure how reliable this would be or whether she was intimidated by someone not to share it with the police, but this is unknown. So a psychic actually got involved with the case, and his name was Gerard Cressette. I'm sorry about the pronunciation, correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably am. He came to Australia and he indicated that he thought the children were buried in a warehouse. So this warehouse was dug up as part of the investigation and nothing was ever found. So obviously his prediction didn't turn out to be true in this case. Hoax letters were actually sent to the parents of the Beaumont children, which is just disgusting. I don't know how anyone could ever do that. But about 2 years later, 2 letters were sent from Jane and then one from the man who was apparently keeping them hostage. Later on, it was proved to be a hoax by a teenager at the time who just liked the case and wanted to be involved in the case, so nothing ever came of it. But yeah, it's a twisted, I don't know how anyone can ever do that, but it's surprising the number of cases that it actually happens in. So later developments in the case. There have actually been 159 Crime Stoppers calls just in 2 years, which is crazy. So there's a lot of attention around this case, rightly so. A lot of people are very interested in it to this day, as am I. And yeah, it's just a really, really fascinating and really upsetting case, because these are just 3 children who went to the beach one day. You know, it could have been me and my friends, could have really been any of us. So a very recent development in the case, in February 2018, a factory that belonged to a previous suspect, which we'll talk about when we get to the suspects section. So yeah, his factory was excavated and they only found animal bones there, so the search was abandoned, unfortunately. But fortunately, nothing was found there. So now we're going to move on to talk about the suspects of the case and who might have been involved and what people have guessed to the case. Now, I'd just like to say none of these are my own. I have researched these. I've got, well, a link where I got most of my information from down below, but I'm just reading out what other people have said. None of these are my own theories. So the first suspect is a man called Von Einem. So he was serving life in prison for murder, but it is believed he had accomplices on the outside. It's also believed that he was involved in far more murders than he was actually convicted for in the end. He refused to cooperate in the case of the Beaumont children, but someone called Mr. B, that's the name he gave, rang into the police and claimed that it was Von Einem who had taken the Beaumont children and that he bragged to him about it at some point. However, Von Einem doesn't really fit the age description that was given by witnesses, as he was too young at the time, and he was also known for murdering older teenagers, and the Beaumont children, their eldest was 9, so they were quite a lot younger than his other victims, which is not typically the MO of a serial killer. They tend to stick to the same demographic and not shift around different age groups or genders. Von Einem was officially treated as a suspect as he very well matched the sketches made by the police shortly after the disappearance. So a second suspect is Arthur Stanley Brown. So in August 1970, this man, Arthur Stanley Brown, was charged with the murders of a 7 and a 5-year-old in Queensland, Australia. The man did pass away in 2002, so he is no longer alive. He looked a lot like the police sketch, which obviously raised suspicion, but it is thought that files about him may have been lost. It was a different time, we didn't have electronic logging and things, so a lot of the files could have been lost. This man, Arthur Stanley Brown, was also suspected in the Oval abduction in 1973, which I believe also occurred in Australia. However, there's one discrepancy with the witness statements in that this man was 53 when the Beaumont children disappeared, and the witnesses reported seeing someone in, I believe it was their late 30s, so there's quite a big age difference there. So the next suspect was James Ryan O'Neill, who was interviewed for a television show and actually admitted to have something to do with the case of the Beaumont children, but this was never proved and he was discounted as a suspect. But it's interesting to note that he also murdered a 9-year-old in 1975. Next we have Derek Ernest Percy. So Percy was convicted of murder in 1969 and was in prison until his death in 2013. He claimed that he was insane, that he suffered with insanity, and he believed he'd killed the Beaumont children, didn't remember any details about this. He was also only 17 years old at the time of the Beaumont disappearance in 1966, so again, similar to the other suspects, didn't fit the description. He also wouldn't have had a car, so it's believed that anyone trying to transport 3 children, either the children or the bodies, would have needed a car, and he would not have had a car in this time as he was only 17. Another suspect is Alan Anthony Monroe. He was caught on sex offences that dated back to 1962. A diary found to be written in 1966 at the time of the Beaumont disappearance also placed him at Glenelg Beach at the time of the disappearance as well, so he was known to be in the area. However, they had no evidence really apart from this conjecture, so there was nothing to ever charge him with. So I believe he's no longer a suspect, or maybe he never was considered a suspect. I'm calling these suspects, but not all of them are actual police suspects, they're just theories. So I should have called them theories, but I'm not going to refilm, you guys know what I mean. So these are purely conjecture, they're purely things that people online have guessed at, they are not official police suspects. Another person considered to be a suspect is Harry Phipps. He actually died in 2004. He lived just streets away from Glenelg Beach, where the Beaumont children disappeared in 1966. It was his factory, who we earlier talked about, being excavated, and this only happened after he died. And the reason that they found him was that his estranged son had spoken about him and that he thought his father might have been involved in the disappearance of the Beaumont children. However, there was nothing found at his factory, so that was a dead end as well. So that's all the suspects slash theories that there are that I could find in this case. If you know of any more, please comment them down below because it'd be a really interesting read. But those are all the ones that I found to do with the case. So now on to talk about the legacy of the Beaumont children. So the case of the Beaumont children is still one of Australia's most infamous cold cases, to the point where I'm talking about it. I live in the UK, but it's just a huge case. There's just so many loose ends and things that don't make sense. It was also attributed to a big change in society regarding supervision, and children were no longer allowed to go out on their own or look after their younger siblings, so it brought about a big change in society. The parents of the Beaumont children are now aged 90 and 92, and they still have not given up hope that their children may still be alive, which I think is pretty amazing. Why would you give up hope? These are your children. I think we should all still have hope that they're alive, and I really hope that one day we get some answers and there'll be closure for the family, because it's it's just such a mystery. Like, I've talked about all the possible theories and suspects and I'm still none the wiser. But it's just a crazy case and a very, very sad case. So that is all that I'm going to talk about the Beaumont children. I could talk all day as per usual with these cases, but I'm going to leave it there because I believe I've covered the main topics. If you think there's anything really important that I've missed, please do put it in the description box so myself and others can have a read of that. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't seen my last mystery moment video, it was the murder of John Benet Ramsey, so I will link it in the description bar and in the clickable I button, which I think is actually that side. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, please go and give it a watch. It's so frustrating and so fascinating that if you like this video, you'll definitely really like it. But thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your opinions about the case in the description box, and I'm looking forward to filming my next mystery moment. So if you have any suggestions for that, please comment them down below. But if you did enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up so I know to do more, and subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!